This video is another in our series about the configuration and setup of the SentryMDU smartphone app. This particular video will focus on user licenses. When an organization licenses the SentryMDU system for their own use, what they're doing is they are licensing the software to run their own dedicated data server, specifically for their own organization. This could be a charitable organization, it could be police, fire, search and rescue, commercial companies. It can be anyone, even an individual if you would like, that would license the software and run their own server, so they would have full control over all aspects of the SentryMDU system. In addition to organizations running their own licensed data server, Digital Lumen Technologies offers the hosting of data servers for those organizations that don't want to host it themselves. When an organization licenses a data server, they have full control over all aspects of the server operation. They're simply licensing the software from us. By having full control, they can then create custom categories of users that would have access to that server on their network. For example, they could have a category of users that are supervisors. They could have a category of users that are team members. They could have a category of users that are guests on the system or temporary employees. For these users to access the system, they would use the license number and then a license access key. By using that when they register, the system would then create a profile for that user and install on the user device a set of pre-configured bookmarks that would provide specific functions for that particular organization. If you're listening to this video, we will assume that your organization has a licensed server and that your organization has provided you with 4 pieces of information that will be necessary for you to register as a user on their licensed server. As you can see in the accompanying picture, to register as a new user with a license number and access key, a user will need the following 4 pieces of information. You will need what's called an anonymous user initial registration password for your particular server instance. So your organization has a server instance and there's an anonymous user password that's required just to access that particular server. In addition, you will need the license number that has been given to the job classification for this user. You will need a temporary license access key that will be provided to you for registration, and generally an access key is only good for a specific period of time. It might be good for a week or a month, or it could be a day. So you'll be given a license access key. And then finally, number 4, you'll be given the domain name or IP address of your SentryMDU licensed server. So you will need those 4 pieces of information before you can proceed with registration on a licensed server. So make sure you have those 4 pieces of information. We're going to begin our process by downloading and installing the SentryMDU app on our device. Now, we have other videos that cover download and installation. So this particular video is not going to go through as detailed of an explanation, but we are going to walk through the process. If you need more information on download and installation, we would recommend that you review the download and installation video. So let's begin. In this illustration, we're going to be using a 10-inch Android tablet. And the reason we're going to use a 10-inch tablet simply is because the screen is bigger and it's easier to see on a video. You wouldn't do as much scrolling simply because there's more real estate and the screen is bigger. To begin with our download, we're going to first go to Google to access the DigiLumen Technologies website. The SentryMDU app is not available on the Play Store, the Google App Store, because we are a commercial grade app. We also, some of the features allow unattended remote operation of the mobile device as a surveillance camera, and Google policy does not allow that. So you must download the app from our website. So let's go, but we're going to go to Google and search for our company so you can find the website. So we go to Google and let's just type in our company name. So it's DigiLumen Technologies. So here we've got DigiLumen Technologies, and it will come to the screen will now populate with a profile of our business. So here's DigiLumen Technologies, Bartlesville, Oklahoma. Talks a little bit about the company, and what you want is our website. So you will click on the website button and it will take you to the DigiLumen Technologies website. And in this case you can read about the smartphone app, a lot of the features, technology review, applications, things like that. But what we're looking for on this video is to download the app for our mobile device. On the left side of the screen, you'll notice there's a button here, and I'll zoom in just a little bit, and you'll see where it says SentryMDU Android app download. So that's the button that we want to click from the website. So here's the website, and let's click on that button, and it will take us to an intermediate screen which talks a little bit about the app and the fact that you will now be transferred to a secure download server, which is our administrative server, and you'll be looking for the same button. But at the bottom of the screen, here's a green button that says continue to download site. So you want to click on that, and it will take you to another website, which is a secure SentryMDU administrative gateway server. And this is what the screen should look like. And on this particular website you will also have the same button. So SentryMDU Android app download. And you'll need to again click on that same button. You'll now see a download screen which is sized for a smartphone. So if I hold a smartphone up here, you can see that if you were downloading onto a smartphone, it would be sized to fill up the screen of a smartphone. And of course the screen can scroll. Down here are a description of the permissions that will be required for you to agree to for the app to install on your mobile device. There's a download button where you'll continue to download, and then there's a reference to the SentryMDU user guide here. We would strongly suggest that you download the user guides, and we won't do that now, but I'll just show you. If you were to click on that button, you're taken to another screen, again sized for a mobile device, which allows you to download both the quick start guide and the mobile device user guide. Of course, we would suggest you download both of them, but at a minimum you should download the quick start guide. It will have a set of pictures and step-by-step guides of exactly how to download, install, and configure your device for the best user experience. Okay, but for now we're going to go back. This video is to explain how to download and install, so we're going to continue to download. So we click on the continue to download. We're taken to another screen. Looks very similar. The only difference is this has a summary of the features not all of them, but as much as we wanted to put on a screen, a summary of features of the SentryMDU application. And in the middle is the download the Sentry app button. So you'll click on this button, and as you see, we had a pop-up. It says, this type of file, do you want to download it? Do you want to keep it? Yes, we want to download this file. So the file is now downloading onto our mobile device, and it'll let us know when it's finished. So it'll take just a minute. This is about a 60 megabyte file, which will download to your mobile device, and then we will need to install that file into our application container. So it'll take just a minute to download. Okay, we think it's now finished downloading, and let's take a look. So if I pull the screen down, you can see here which it says SentryMDU. That's a version number 298. Download is complete. So we have downloaded the file now into our download folder. So what we'll do is we will now let's go to the download folder, and we clicked on that. So now we're going to download it. So most phones are set to block a download for what's called an unknown source. So you'll have settings on your phone that can allow unknown sources. So in this case, it's saying, hey, this is not from the Play Store. I don't know about this particular application, so let's look at the settings. So here we'll go to settings, and settings come up, and here where it says unknown sources, we want to say, yep, we want to install that from unknown sources. It says, are you sure you want to install from an unknown source? And we say, okay. So do you want to install this application? And down in the lower right, we say, yes, we do want to install. So we're now installing the SentryMDU application on our mobile device. And okay, the app has now been installed. You can see where it says app installed here, and we are done. So we click on done, and it has now finished installing. We still have the previous screen, so we'll just back out of these and return to our main apps. And if we scroll over here on this next page, you'll see we have the SentryMDU icon, and when the SentryMDU app is installed, it will install two icons. One is called the SentryMDU main application, and then we have a SentryMDU bookmark. So we're going to click on that, and because this is a later version of Android, we have a series of permissions that we have to agree to. So we're going to come down here and request permissions, and we're just going to cycle through these. If you'd like more of an explanation, you can go to the Quick Start Guide, and if you want details on how all this works, go to the Quick Start Guide. So okay, we've now completed all the permissions. It installed the program files on your device. We have an end user license agreement which you can review, but you need to click on agree and then agree here. We also have a privacy policy that you're welcome to review here. It's also on our website and on the mobile device. If you go to the About information, there'll be a button where you can review the privacy policy, but you need to agree to that. If you don't agree, the app won't install. So now it says, would you like to register your user? Please open the menu and then configuration. Okay. Now, as we have explained in the past, your initial download of imagery is a set of roadmaps, and it's called OpenStreetMap data. And I'm going to make a couple changes here just because I happen to like using a sidebar scrolling mechanism. And all right, now we have downloaded and installed the SentryMDU app on our device, but we have not created a user yet. And this is where the installation process for a licensed user is a little bit different than the installation process for just a general user. And the reason is because as you register, you're going to be registering on your organization's data server, not a data server for other users. So remember, as a licensed user, you have a dedicated data server that is just for your organization. They administer it, they control it. Essentially, all we do is we license them the software. They run their own hardware, or can run their own hardware. So in this case, we need to, we're going to now create a user, but it's going to be a user on your dedicated data server for your organization. So the way we do that is we're going to go to a menu, and down here under configuration, we're going to select configuration, and it says you're currently an anonymous user to the service. Do you want to create your own user? Yes, we do, but before we create our own user, we need to make sure we have put in either the domain name or the IP address of the dedicated data server for your particular organization. So for right now, we're going to say, do you want to create your own user? We're going to say no, so click on no. Now this is the main configuration form, and there's a couple things that we need to change. The first is up here where it says server address. It defaults to the server address for Digiluma Technologies. If you are an organization that has your own dedicated data server, then obviously you need to put your server address in that box. So for just for illustrating on this video, what we're going to do is we're going to select another data server. Now, two ways to do that. You can either just input your name into that box of your IP address or your domain name of your data server, or in the case of this particular example, we're going to select, and you can notice we have two data servers listed up here. One is the what we call the root data server. That's the one that it defaults to. And then in this example, we're going to select this called root data server USA in Oklahoma. So we're going to select that particular data server. Now, because we're going to be accessing this data server, we must enter an anonymous password to continue with registration on this server. As we explained earlier in the video, there were 4 pieces of information that you needed. You needed an anonymous user registration password, you needed a license number, you needed a license access key, and you needed the domain name or IP address. Well, we have used the domain name and IP address. That was the Oklahoma server. Now is where we put in the anonymous password so we can continue with registration on your organization's server instance. So we're going to put the password in here, and I'm going to put the password, and then the screen will blank out because we don't want you to know what the password is. We have now entered our anonymous user password for this particular server instance. So once you've entered the password in, and this password would be provided to you by your IT department, it's one of those 4 pieces of information. And because they control the server instance, they may change this anonymous user password daily or weekly. They may give it to you and the next day it wouldn't be valid anymore. So because they control the server instance, they have the ability to change this anonymous user password. That just allows you to begin the registration process. So we're going to click OK. Now what has happened is on our configuration screen here, you notice the server address now is the server we had selected over here. So it could be an IP address of your particular organization's data server, and the anonymous user ID with the anonymous user password. And that's one of the things that will be required. Then farther down the screen, under what's called tracker configuration, you notice that it has also put in the same server address for your data server instance in two places. So it's put it once here and once here. So if you put it in manually, you have to make sure that it's put in both places. Okay, so now once we have put in that information, we now want to register a new user. So on the right hand panel you'll see a button and it's called Register New User. So now we want to click on that button, and it's contacting that particular data server to make sure that we do have access. And because we use the anonymous user initial registration password, that allows us to now begin the registration process on your organization's data server. So now we have the here's the new user registration form. And if you had seen general user registration, you can see the different items of information that need to be filled out. The Quick Start Guide and the User Manual have a detailed explanation and a section on new user registration forms and the format, the characters you can use, can't use, things like that. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. I'm going to enter the information very quickly so we can move on to user license registration. But for now, we're going to do a username. So you click in the data box and an on-screen keyboard will come up, and I'm going to select a name, Team Leader. So Team Leader is going to be my login name, and then password. So I'm going to enter a password, and the screen will blank out for just a second because I don't want you to see the password. Okay, now I've entered both passwords. You can see I've got the password here, and then you have to enter it again for confirmation. So next we want a full username, and because my login name is Team Leader, a full username would normally be your name like Bob Jones or Susan Johnson, something like that. But I'm going to use Team Leader, so my name will be Team Leader. Go to next. Now we want to put an email. It has to be a valid email address. So could be support at, I'm using our company support email. And then going to put in a phone number, and there is a discussion of the format of the phone number. Right now I'm not going to go over that. You can read about it in the manual. But the phone number has to conform to standard international telephone number format with a country code in front, area code, phone number, but it cannot include things like intercity codes or things like that. Okay, so now we have the security domains for right now. Don't worry about anything like that because you're going to be a licensed user. Your security domain, other than your personal security domain, your security domain will be determined for you by your organization. The system defaults to your login name, which is Team Leader, with the name tracker appended to it. Leave the private access box checked. Leave digital globe maps as our geospace. So now we need to put in a CAPTCHA code, and this is so we make sure you're not a robot. So we put in 5258239, and once you have entered the code below, you click on register, and it's now going to register a new user. Okay, you notice it says this user already exists on the server. So I didn't know that. So that means we cannot use that same name again, and we'll have to pick another one. So since that name was already used, I'm going to have to come back up here and change team leader. So I'm going to call it team leader 1. How's that? So now we come and leave the same password, and my full name is going to be team leader 1. Leave everything else the same, and you'll notice it automatically changed our name here, our full name, to team leader 1 tracker. So now let's see if we can register with team leader 1. So we come down here and we've got our CAPTCHA information. Now let's click register. And let's see, it's registering a new user. It normally takes it about 15 to 20 seconds. It's got to contact the server, authenticate you as a user. Okay, so now it says a new user has been registered successfully. The name is Team Leader 1. Your user ID is a number 240. And the program configuration will be changed to use that user. So that means you were successful. So we're going to click OK. So now you have registered on your new data server for your organization. So you have registered. So now the next step, in order to get the satellite maps, is we want to pick a user license. Because remember, there were 4 pieces of information that you were given, and so now we want to use the license number that has been set up by your organization and the license access key so you can retrieve the user license. So we're going to click on user licenses, and we're going to add a user license. So you click on add. So now there's a place to put a license number and a license access key. So we will assume that your organization has given you a license number. So just for the sake of this example, we're going to pick a license number, and we're going to say the license number is 789-123-456. And so we've just picked that license number, but it obviously has to be a valid license number. And the next step is the license access key. So again, you've been given that license access key by your organization. So just for the sake of an example, we've done a temporary example here. So we're going to call the license key to be 123-456 as the license access key. So now we have entered a license number and a license access key, and both of these were provided by your organization to you. It's some of those 4 pieces of information. So once we have those numbers, we will add. You wait a minute. Your particular your device has contacted the data server for your organization, and it's validating the license information that was provided. So we will wait just a moment. So we have now retrieved the user license category for your particular license number that you provided. And in this example, the The category is County Rescue Team Member. And if we click on that, this will give you some of the specific license information for that particular license. So you can see the role is, now I'll zoom in a little bit so you can see these. The role is a rescue member logistics. Now remember, you could have a number of different license categories available for different users on your system. The name is the County Rescue Team Member, and under information you can see it says this is a license category for county rescue team members that handle logistics and transportation. Because as you load a particular user profile based on the license number and category you've selected, it will also download a whole set of bookmarks and other information that could be specific to that particular member. So you could have certain icons that would appear on your map screens that would allow them to have access to certain types of information. And you can see the security domains are County Rescue, USA, Oklahoma, Washington County. And then there's a supervisor domain. You can read more about security domains in the user guide. So this is the license that has now been accessed and authenticated. So we are now going to go back to the main screen. So you click the back button, and you'll notice that we now get a screen that says the user license has now been validated successfully. And we click OK, and now what happens is the screen has downloaded the high-resolution satellite imagery onto your device, and those users that have a user license, they don't have to get a subscription, or there are no restrictions on them on the use of satellite imagery, data storage, broadcasting through the server, because your organization controls the server. So in this case, we have now have access to the satellite imagery. We have created a user. So let's just let's access this particular user. As you can see up here, it's Team Lead Tracker 1, and we're going to activate that user so we can see where he's located. And we'll go back to our screen, and in just a moment on the map screen should show the GPS location of this particular mobile device. So we will center it just so we can zoom in, and it will take just a moment for the imagery to download on the device. So now you can see this is the satellite imagery that's available. As you can see, we have now registered our user with a user license on the data server instance of our organization. If you'd like to review that, simply click on the menu, go down on the bottom where it says Licenses and Subscriptions, and we look at User Licenses, and here is the user license that we had selected before. And you can review that information. Now, if you want to remove yourself from this particular license category, you do what's called a long click, touch it for a second, and you can revoke the license, which means you can remove it. Now, if you revoke the license, you will lose the access on the network for that server instance. But there'll be more videos that will cover this topic. So for now, just wanted to show that to you. To recap what we've done in this video, we have contacted our organization's administrative person and gotten 4 pieces of information that we would need to establish a user license on the dedicated data server of our organization. We downloaded and installed the SentryMDU app. We approved the permissions that were required on our device. We agreed to the end user license agreement. We agreed to the privacy policy when we did our installation. We then changed the IP address or domain name and the anonymous user password for our dedicated server. We then registered on that server, and then we took the license information and the license access key that was given to us and accessed and registered the user license. We now have the satellite imagery, and we're ready to proceed with further configuration of the screens and the particular user preferences, but those will be covered in another video. So for now, that's it. Don't forget to review the user guide for more details. See you on the next video. Thank you.